There's lots to talk about and lots going on in Philly sports right now. But trying to watch that NBA Finals game last night, it really makes me think of the Sixers. Now I want the Sixers to be competing for an NBA championship. Joel Embiid is eligible for a 3-year, near $200 million extension this offseason. If he wants it, he should get it. But it could be a big mistake for the Sixers. So we're going to talk that theory on why it could be a major mistake for the Sixers today. Phillies Red Sox game 2 recap, preview game 3 tonight. Kelly and Vegas's football list, smash burgers. There's a million things I want to talk about today. We're going to have fun as always. Trending in the AM, we are live, taking your thoughts and opinions on everything in 60 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome all to Trending in the AM right here on Edge of Philly Sports. We are live. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You know the drill. Wherever you are watching, get in the conversation and make sure you do me that favor and hit that like, share, subscribe, retweet, follow button, whichever platform it is you are tuning in on. Make sure you do me that. Do me that solid. And hit those buttons to help spread the word and get as many people in the conversation as possible. And we've got a big conversation today. And I want to center it around Joel Embiid. I'm watching the NBA Finals go on and be embarrassing for Dallas, to be honest. But that's another topic. And I'm thinking about this 3-year, $193 million extension that Joel Embiid is eligible for. And how it has to happen. But also, it might turn out to be an even bigger mistake than if the Sixers maxed out Paul George. And I really, really think the Sixers are in a lose-lose situation here this offseason. They have so much work to do to build a team as good as the Mavericks, who are coming up really short. They have a lot of work to do to build a team like the Celtics. Plus, the Sixers have built us to have zero faith. Because Daryl Morey hasn't done anything. Elton Brand hasn't done anything. This whole entire time, Colangelo, dating back for the last 8 to 10 years, it has been disaster. Hell, the last 20 years, disaster after disaster. So there's a negative feeling creeping through Sixers Nation. And when I see the fact that Joel Embiid is eligible and deserves it, it's frustrating. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, here every morning on Trending in the AM. You can find me on all social media platforms at Beard and Knowledge. And I'm already behind like 20 comments. So we're just going to fire through them right here. Let's win this series tonight. Yes, Phillies looked a little bit, two of the last 3 games. They weren't very clean. London, maybe, who knows? Tough game tonight. Let's get that series win. What is up, Deebs? How you doing? Good morning, Eric. I hate being a Sixers fan too, Marshawn. Hate it. What happened to going down with the sinking with the ship? Look, I'm still going down with the ship on Joel Embiid. That's why I say you've got to give it to him if he wants it. But it could be a major mistake. A big mistake. And the fact that if he doesn't push for it, the fact that he's got 2.5 years left on his deal, 2 years plus a player option, then let's not force the issue. Let's try to convince him not to force the issue. And if he forces it, you got no choice. I'm going down with it. I know that. Not backing out of that. I'm just saying think of it this way. Joel Embiid's 30 years old. He'll be 31 come playoffs next year. He's got next year at $51 million, the following year at $55 million, and a player option in 26-27 for $59. A 3-year, $139 million, $93 million contract. It's like $64 million a year after that. So you'd be tied to Joel Embiid until he's 34. He's an unhealthy guy. But you're also going to go all in and spend every asset you have and dollar you have to build around him this offseason. And if it fails, you're going to have all these bad contracts. You're going to have no draft assets. And then you're also going to have 5 years more of Joel Embiid and no ability to make moves around Joel Embiid. It also makes trading him, once you give him that 3 more years, that much more difficult if we ever go down that path. I'm just saying that it's a bad idea to give him the extension. You got to give it to him, but it's a bad idea that can massively, massively, massively backfire 2 years from now or next offseason. It's just tough. Being a Sixers fan is so exhausting. It is. Like, I want to talk about comparing the Sixers to what they need to be the Mavericks or be the Celtics. But we've got to talk about it's almost like, and this is pathetic, and I'm going down with the sinking ship. I am. It's almost like you got to start over. Like, there are plenty of good arguments to be made to just start over and get rid of Joel Embiid. There are. I'm not. I won't. But there's an argument because it's so exhausting and there's no end in sight. Like, I see your tweets every day, Thieves, of your polls of what the Sixers could look like. And are you crazy or drunk or you on to something? And every single one of them make me think none of them are going to make you compete with the Celtics. None of them are going to. The lineups you're putting out there, some are good, some are not, Thieves. And follow Thieves on Twitter if you want. He puts out some great content. None of them are going to win you a title. Some of them might get you the second round or the conference. None of them are going to beat the Celtics in a 7-game series. And it's frustrating because of that. I wouldn't give him shit. Where has he gotten his team round 1 playoff exit and a couple round 2s? I get the frustration, Ted. I really do. I understand it. But what's your other option? Move on from him? If he demands he wants that extension, you kind of got to give it to him, don't you? You don't want an upset Joel Embiid sulking. We know he wears his emotions on his sleeve. He is still an elite player. And you got to maximize around him. Problem is Daryl Morey, I don't trust. But the problem is when you give him that extension, you're really, really, really making this offseason. So it's almost like, let me rephrase this. If you give Joel Embiid the extension that he probably will want, and you fail this offseason in building the perfect team around him, you might as well realize that we're going to go into a process era level of losing again. Because once that next season falls apart and you've given Embiid that contract extension, it's over, guys. Elton Brand is still employed after all the failures. Yeah, I mean, he's really good at getting Daryl Morey coffee, I think. Joel Embiid was 24 years old when Tobias Harris signed with the Sixers. Let that sink in. That I think I've seen you say that before, and that is one of the most depressing things in the world. It is. I'm team pay the man. Yeah, I'm team pay the man if he wants it because you have no choice. But it could backfire drastically. Before we continue on with this conversation, I want to throw some other things out there. Obviously, if you want to talk Phillies versus Red Sox last night or today, bring it into the conversation. Some other things I want to talk about. We're going to bring up Kelly in Vegas's quarterback ranking list because we're just going to have fun with how stupid this person is. Something I'm contemplating doing, and I'm going to need help putting together the proper list, is I am going to do a top. You guys love my top 10 list, okay? My power ranking. We're going to do a top 10 list of local, and I've kind of tweaked it to say national too, biggest trolls in the sports media world. Philly preferably. Got to throw someone like Skip Bayless or Chris Sims in there. So some national names might make the list. The biggest trolls in Philly sports media and the bigger content creators. The the clickbait content creators, the Philly media, and a few national. We're going to do that. So drop recommendations for that as well. Some other odds and ends we're going to get to. Tobias Harris's contract is one of the major reasons for the process undoing. Absolutely agree. And see, here's the thing, Marshawn. I don't want to get into a debate about we chose Harris over Butler because we didn't. Butler wanted to walk, so we felt the need. And this Joel Embiid, you feel the need, you have to give him the extension, could backfire. We felt the need, we as in the organization, to give Harris that contract because when you lost Butler, you traded so much for Butler and Harris that when Butler decided to go, you just felt like you couldn't get rid of Harris too. That was their misstep there. Saying we lost Jimmy Buckets, well, we can't lose Harris too. If they would have just walked away from both of them versus keeping Harris, the whole trajectory of the Sixers last 5 years changes. So much different could have happened. Bubbles up. That's right. Smash that like button, guys, if you haven't already done it. Please, please, please. To have been the Celtics, the Sixers should have drafted modern NBA players. Maxey is too small and will be game planned defensively by a smart coach. Yeah. I mean, Maxey's a small guy, but Tyrese Maxey is still a rising star in the league. You just better put a lengthier guard next to Maxey. Maxey might not ever be a number one, but he'll be a great number two at some point. Maybe a 1B. So I think there's ways around that. Ted Boyd, I agree. You pay him if you want, but I also get Ted's point, and I'll put it back up on the screen. I mean, his frustrations and reasons for saying this are extremely justified, in my opinion. Also, Celtics are not scared to trade players and assets because, one, they have good players to trade, and two, they don't waste draft assets. Yeah, I agree. Celtics organization isn't afraid to make the bold moves, for sure. Embiid is the reason we have expectations. I agree. Embiid is an elite player. And Daryl Morey's got a quote-unquote blank canvas this offseason. Problem is, if he fails, when he fails in building the team, and you've given Embiid 3 more years on the 2 he's already has, you're talking about 34, 35-year-old Joel Embiid making $60 million. And by that point, in 5 more years, we don't know what Joel Embiid's knees and back and face and every other injury is going to look like. So when you give him that extension, the pressure on Daryl Morey is even tenfold more what it is now. Outside Daryl Morey pulling a rabbit out of his ass this offseason, the reality is there aren't many paths to get into the finals. Absolutely agree. And that's why I'm going down with the sinking ship. I'm not trading Joel Embiid. I get that, Dave. But what I'm saying is, if you want to make the narrative that you should trade Joel Embiid, well, let me tell you something. I can at least listen to people saying that they want to trade Joel Embiid. I'm at that point. I'm not going to do it, but I think I'm ready to at least hear the options, so to speak. If the ultimate goal is to win a championship, then there's a real conversation Morey needs to have. Well, what is the conversation Morey needs to have? How to go all in? Get Markkanen and Bridges? Is that the answer? I don't know. Deebs, even if he brings in Mikel or Markkanen, this team has very little continuity. Yeah, I agree. I mean, literally, what is there? Like 3 guys technically under contract right now? Joel, Ricky Council, and sort of Paul Reed till they void his contract at the end of the season. Not a part of the hindsight generation when you try to besmirch someone's body of work years later because we haven't won a title. Yeah, look, I mean, the body of work of Joel Embiid is interesting because he's an elite player. He's an MVP, led the league in scoring multiple times, an elite center of all time. But he's getting to the point, body of work-wise, I'm not comparing the two in the drama department. Well, I mean, Joel Embiid has had drama in his career too. But he's getting to the point of like a James Harden. An elite player just doesn't show up playoff time. Drafting Ben Simmons at the time was the right choice. Absolutely agree. Having him in the building and seeing his character and keeping him is an issue that I believe Hinkie would not have done. Yeah, maybe Hinkie, I think you brought this up recently, maybe Hinkie would have moved on from Ben Simmons sooner if Sam Hinkie was around. I mean, moving on from Sam Hinkie, period, was a problem, right? We can all agree from that. I mean, it wasn't our choice, but I guess we can agree that that was a mistake for sure. This next year will be hopefully Joel's first year without Okafor or Tobias Harris as teammates. I love that comment. I think somebody has said that, maybe you, Brett, before. I love it. I love this comment so much. It does make me laugh. It does bring, it brings a little tear to my eye, like a laughing tear, but also a little bit of a crying tear. It's pretty sad that he's pretty much had one or the other dope pretty much his entire time in Philly. And it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Pathetic? Maybe pathetic's the right choice of words. I'm not positive on that. Embiid gave his body for 4 straight MVP caliber seasons, playing for an Iverson-esque level supporting class. I agree. And look, we look back on Iverson's career, wishing he would have got, at least Iverson got to a championship round. Let's say that first and foremost. But let's be honest. I mean, he didn't get us to a title because we didn't surround him right. Different generation of NBA style play, but we didn't surround him right. But the problem is, and again, I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm saying you've got to give him the extension if he wants it. But when you go out and spend the rest of the money you've got, and you got what, 3, 4, 5 first-round picks you could trade. You trade everything and you give up all your money, and what you build this offseason doesn't work. Then you're stuck with all that, no assets left to trade, and 5 years, not 2 years, of Joel Embiid. In theory, in my mind, maybe Joel Embiid doesn't want the extension yet. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he wants to see what Daryl Morey does. And then at least then he knows, maybe Joel Embiid's a smarter business person than we realize, and he knows that if this doesn't work out this offseason, he wants out. We're kind of getting into that Dame Lillard territory a little bit with Joel Embiid. He sticks around, then eventually he's going to want out. The more you give him an extension, the harder it is to trade him. If he says, I want out, if he's got 5 years left on his deal versus 2 years, a little different in the negotiations and trades. Just saying. Excuse me. Maxi's an amazing player. They need to surround him with players to hide his size, especially a team against like the Celtics. Absolutely agree. Absolutely. You got to surround him with size, 1,000%. What's up, Michael Redmond? How you doing today? Make sure you guys are hitting that like button, share button, subscribe button, follow button. I think Brett Brown is one of the main reasons the process failed. He was a trash coach and a trash GM. I don't know if he was technically the GM, but yeah, I get that. And did dumb things like trade for Zaire Smith. Look, Brett Brown had no idea how to hold his players accountable. He just didn't. He never held. I bring this up all the time. There was a game during the Ben Simmons, Brett Brown era, and I forget when it was. And it was maybe before even I started podcasting. I might have had like 100 followers on Twitter. And I just put out a comment. It was halftime of a basketball game. Ben Simmons had 9 turnovers already. And I tweeted out, if Brett Brown had any cojones, he would bench Ben Simmons to send a statement to the team that kind of play was not acceptable. And he didn't. We lost the game. He had like 5 more turnovers in the second half. He almost had a triple-double with turnovers in that game. And Brett Brown was I'm a Brett Brown fan. I like the guy, the person, so to speak. But Brett Brown, the coach, was terrible. Daryl Morey has 1 year, 2 years max to not only redo the roster, but find the heart and soul of the Sixers again. This team isn't. Yeah, well, so I mean, what was the contract extension? We signed Nick Nurse, I think, to a 5-year deal, so we extended Daryl Morey to match Nick Nurse's thing. So, in my opinion, Josh Harris thinks there's still 2 more years this offseason, next year, at least with Daryl Morey. But I'm telling you, why? Daryl Morey is the current problem. Last year, 2 years ago, this year, Daryl Morey is not an elite GM like people think he is. Not an elite executive. Brett Brown made Eddie Jordan look like Pat Riley. Eddie Jordan. Haven't heard that name in a while. How many Derek White players are out there for the Sixers to trade for? 16th pick should get you a player like that. Keldon Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, Malcolm Brogdon, maybe Caruso. I don't know if I'm trading the 16th pick for Malcolm Brogdon at this point or DeAndre Hunter. I think I would want Keldon Johnson out of those three at this point the most. But yeah, Eddie Jordan not holding Brett's jockstrap. I don't know about that. Dejounte Murray would be a solid plan B if you strike out on Paul George or LeBron. But does that move take you over the top? Probably not. Thing is, though, it can't be. We can't have, Daryl Morey can't have the horse blinders on this offseason and be all in just on one player. Because it's not about bringing in one player, Paul George, LeBron, Dejounte Murray. It's about bringing in 3-4 pieces and strategizing how to get the best combo of players. Again, I don't even want a superstar. I want 3 Carusos and Brogdons and Keldon Johnsons and those kind of guys. I want a team. But Daryl Morey puts the blinders on, focuses on one thing, whether he gets it or not, and then he's left picking up the pieces afterwards. And that's a big problem. Brett couldn't coach a fish into water. In hindsight, Brett Brown was a very bad coach, and I admit that. Not mad at drafting Simmons. It would have been awesome if we could have traded back and selected Jalen Brown, hindsight 2020, obviously, and adding assets. Simmons was a generational talent. Look, I thought Ben Simmons was going to be the next LeBron James. I ain't going to lie. I thought he had superstar ceiling. I did. Depends if Brogdon or Hunter is packaged with Murray. Yeah, if you want to give me 16 and something else for Brogdon and Murray or Hunter and Murray, sure. I can get behind that. Devin Carter at 16 would be the Derek White addition you're looking for. That would be a home run pick for the Sixers if they keep the pick. I don't think they keep the pick. But the reason not just because the reason they're not going to keep the pick is because they are in theory win now mode. And to be in win now mode, you don't have time. They weren't willing to give 2 years ago Isaiah Joe a chance. What makes you think they're going to draft someone now and give them a chance to develop? When you're trying to win a basketball championship, or at least get to the second round, you don't got time to develop. That's the problem. Maxey and Murray would kind of be exciting, man. Not gonna lie, that's a great backcourt, but it's not enough. Maxey, Murray, and Joel Embiid is not enough. You better not trade too much for Murray and have enough to go get Lauri Markkanen or Mikal Bridges too. You better have enough to go get Caruso. You better have enough to go get somebody else, because that's not a complete offseason. I know Hayward stint in Boston was bad because of injuries, but he was such a good signing coming out of Utah. Yeah, the injuries, man. That leg injury, and I know that was before. Well, it was before Boston. He was never going to be. I had a similar. I'm a guy that's every player that's had a double compound fracture in all sports. I feel for them because, man, when you start breaking bones that badly, man, it's tough, man. I used to make the joke if it took Brett Brown 2 off seasons to make it. Yeah, it did. Yep, agreed. The problem we aren't surrounded and in controlling Embiid's time during the season to work. Yeah, agreed. What's up, Frank? Hey, how you doing? Appreciate you checking in this morning, my man. The problem is Morey has stars in his eyes and has a budget to get them. And that's the problem. And this is why the title of the show, it could be, if you give Joel his extension this offseason, a big mistake, because he is going to go star hunting. And I don't think he's thinking, Daryl Morey, what star is best next to Joel Embiid? He's like, what's the biggest star I can get? That's all he thinks about, Duck. And if he goes out and gets Paul George or LeBron James, gives him a big, massive contract, okay, and it doesn't work out, but you've given Joel the max contract extension, now you're stuck with 2 mistakes versus just 1. And if this offseason doesn't work out, guys, I'm telling you, this is it for this current incarnation of the Sixers. This is our last chance. After this season, It's strip it down to the bones, build around Maxey, and start drafting players. Problem is, we're going to give away all our draft picks to bring stars in. You're looking at if this next building of the Sixers incarnation doesn't work out, you might have to trade Tyrese Maxey. Because after this year fails, and it probably will fail, the only tradable asset that will bring you in a massive amount of draft picks might be Tyrese Maxey. If you give if Joel Embiid's under contract for 5 more years after this year, and you try to trade him at 31, 32 years old, yeah, you're going to get draft picks for him. But if you try to trade a Tyrese Maxey at 24, under a pretty cheap, because he didn't make, his max contract's pretty cheap. His max contract's going to be cheaper than the 3-year extension almost that Joel can sign. You might get 5 first-round picks. Right? So I'm saying, this offseason is so critical to the success or failure of this team long-term and this next year. He's not looking for young talent. I know that. I agree. He's got stars in his eyes. He's got stars on the water. It's a great Jimmy Buffett song theme, Stars on the Water. I agree, Duck, this team should be star hunting, but rather bringing in elite role players like Obi Toppin, Alex Caruso. I agree. If you can get 3 elite role players to pair with Maxey and Embiid, or 1 superstar to pair with Maxey and Embiid, I'm taking the 3 elite role players. And I think there's a path to that. Problem is, that's not Daryl Morey's MO. Obi Toppin and Alex Caruso. Let's just get into this star hunting and young talent thing. Obi Toppin, Alex Caruso, and Keldon Johnson is option 1, just randomly speaking, or Paul George is option 2. I think most Sixers fans would prefer option 1, but Daryl Morey will go option 2, and that is the big problem. And beating these playoffs on 248 minutes plus 46 off 40. Yeah, I get it. I get Joel Embiid is an elite player. And there's no denying Joel Embiid is an elite player, Brett. The problem is the building around him. And that's why I'm saying whatever you build around him this offseason, if you also give him that extension, which he deserves, which he should get, which if he wants it, we're going to give it to him. But when they do that, and this offseason fails, this team is going to be a complete and total mess. Complete and utter mess. This is why I don't want the age superstar. If this year fails, we are screwed. That is a big gamble, especially with an Embiid extension. Build the right team, and maybe you keep the window from slamming shut. And that's the thing. This offseason is a Big Al. The window is slamming shut if we fail this offseason. And I mean Daryl Morey, because we don't get the choices. We don't. Daryl Morey should run a poll and pick 3 Sixers fans to make the choices. The team has the right coach, a rising star who is capable. Yeah, but you're risking putting it all in jeopardy with the wrong moves this offseason. I hear it. And you know what, Brian? And I appreciate your comment. Make sure you hit the like button. I'm on board with y'all. I'm going down with the sinking ship. But I'm now at the point, looking at this offseason and how it could shape up, where at least I'm going to listen and acknowledge these type of comments. I am. What we lack outside of players are the intangibles. Hart, IQ. We're missing a Josh Hart of the world, the Drew Holidays of the world. That's what we're missing. And we need it. We don't need Paul George. Building around Maxey is what we saw this past season. We play in a team. Joel's been fraudulent in the biggest moments. Nick Nurse needs a reality check. The Sixers need to retool the offense and build it around Maxey and not Embiid. These are all valid points. We waited years for a coach like Nurse, and he should be part of the free agent plans. I hope he is. Far too often in football and basketball, it's a little different in baseball, but football and basketball, and I guess hockey would fit this theory as well. The GM executives don't sit down with the coaches enough and pick their brains on what they want. The GMs give the coaches players and just assume the coach is going to figure it out. Coach needs to be in a lot more of the conversation than realized. 76ers dirt white type player is DeAnthony Melton. He was a real big reason we couldn't slow Brunson. Brett, I want to be a big DeAnthony Melton fan. I do. I always have been. But once you got a degenerative back issue, it scares me. DeAnthony Melton's pretty young. We can get him on a 1-year cheap deal or a 2-year cheap deal. A 1-1, sure. But I have a feeling that DeAnthony Melton will get offers of 3-4 years out of our price range. That's just my opinion. The problem is not Embiid. They need to work that bench. They need to keep Maxey and get another big man who can cover Embiid's minutes. Well, they get big men that can cover Embiid's minutes for 10 minutes a game. What they need to do is make sure they get a big that can play and start 30 minutes a game 25 times a year. That's the problem. Brett Brown could have been let go once the winning started. Can't change the lose. You know, Brett Brown, how long has it been? We had 3 years. So Brett Brown's been gone for 4 years. Right? Doc was here for 3. Nurse 1. I think it was only 3 years of Doc, right? Nobody's hired Brett Brown. Nobody. He had to go back to Greg Popovich handing, out, asking for a job. That's it. Nobody's running to get nobody's even put Brett Brown, who quote unquote was developing our young stars during the process. Not even a G League team has put Brett Brown in charge. That tells you something about what the league thinks and thought of Brett Brown's time as head coach of the Sixers. Those who are young and develop into future players, Embiid is not the problem. To excuse him completely is irresponsible. Is not the problem. Yeah, I think the problem is, the comment should be, you can't completely excuse him from the problems. But to put all the problems on him might be overreaching as well. I think there's got to be a common ground there. If he gets hurt, then can Lords of London pay off his salary and Sixers would be done with him? I just don't know what's going to happen here. I just feel like we're really setting up for some big problems here. You can get both Caruso and George, because, yeah, I know you can. So you trade 16 for Caruso. I think he's got 2 years left on this deal. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. You give Paul George a 4-year max, which I don't even think Paul George is. Let's just get this out. I think Paul George is using all this for leverage in LA. He's staying in LA, in my opinion. But you go out there, get 4 years of George. You trade 16 for Caruso. You still got to build out the rest of the team with other trades and other picks and other signings and whatnot. And you give Embiid the extension. If you do this, Brett, and don't give Embiid the extension, okay. But you do this and give Embiid the extension, and it doesn't work out, dark times ahead. Trading Maxey is as dumb as trading Holiday. He's young enough to. I'm not saying you should trade him. Let me I'm not saying that. No way. No, not doing it. Can we get a GM who actually knows basketball? Yeah. Maury's failed everywhere. Opie Toppin is not elite, though. He doesn't play defense or rebound. He's almost redundant a buddy. I'd have to defer to Deebs to counter that, Barbara. Sixers keep swinging for the fences and striking out. Just get on base. I love it. It's a great analogy. It's a great Phillies analogy on this Sixers morning. Brett, I agree, but Melton is also too small. But I like Melton a lot on this team. I just worry about DeAnthony Melton in the back, guys. I do. We're going to get caught up on these comments in 1 second, guys, because I want to shout out our friends here at SherryTickets.com. Great moments don't just happen. They happen with you in the crowd. SherryTickets.com is easy to use. And, of course, they have no hidden fees, like it says on the screen. You can also use exclusive promo code EOP10 and get an extra 10% off. So no hidden fees, 10% off. Why would you overpay with the rest? Save with the best, SherryTickets.com. Need a personal touch? 610-494-5050. SherryTickets.com. They got it all. Check them out, guys. SherryTickets.com. Concert, theater, and sporting tickets, whatever you need. Guys, you could have probably gotten some great Rolling Stone tickets from SherryTickets.com. So make sure you check them out next time you need tickets to any event out there, guys. And back to the comments here. Let's try to catch up before the next ad read. That's true, Barbara. Even the most optimistic Knicks fans knew Obi isn't all that. What's up, John? How you doing? So disappointing how often Philadelphia fans disrespect Joel. He's given us everything. Most athletes wouldn't fight through what Joel's. There's no doubt in that, John. And I've said it before. I'm going down with the sinking ship. I am not giving up on Joel at all. What I'm doing is laying out the path to give him the extension, bring in a Paul George type contract, trade the next 5 picks that we have to trade this offseason, and build this super team. And it doesn't work out, it's going to be a disaster the following 2-3 years. That's all I'm saying. Nurse coaches with a handicap. I think the nurse, and if he's a good coach or not, is an interesting topic. And maybe we'll dive. Do we know any NBA coaches that we could bring on this show that aren't working right now? I'd love to get someone that really knows NBA coaching to discuss this. I really got to do that. These fans saying, hand the keys over to Maxey. Do you guys remember how effing bad we were without Joel? I don't think some fans are saying, hand the keys over to Joel or Maxey. What we're talking about, John, is running the offense through Maxey versus Joel. Joel could be an MVP caliber player, not the focal point of the offense, by just being a big man. He can play. You can back off of Joel as the focal point a little bit. He can still score 25 a game, get 11 boards. And if you don't make him the focal point, if you hand the keys over to Maxey, maybe Joel not being 30 shots a game, Joel Embiid, 20 free throws a game Embiid, which means he's taking that many fouls a game, preserves him, keeps him a little bit more healthy, is what we're saying. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Joel will be blamed for a lot. Yeah, I mean, when you're the star, when you're the MVP, you got to take flack if you fail. That's kind of the privilege, or the not the privilege. That's kind of the negative of being the man. Some other really solid cheap fits are Chris Dunn and. I didn't even know Chris Dunn was still in the NBA, to be honest with you, Deebs. I saw you post him the other day. Wasn't he like the 5th overall pick years ago? I don't know if Chris Dunn's really a good option or not. Hi, it's me, Michael. What? Michael Al's son? What? I'm not understanding that one. We could sign OG, but don't think he's leaving. I don't think he's not leaving New York. I think he stays and signs a big contract there. Opie is a defender, but he's made major strides at Indiana. Yeah, he definitely had a trend upward, and I'm not sure if you're willing to risk big-time investment there from just his time there. You kind of got to look at the big picture, but cheaper than some of the other options. Doesn't matter. Any team would take Embiid's contract in a trade. Now they would take it, but if you give him 3 more years at $200 million, it'd be a little harder. Yeah, I get it. John, who is disrespecting Embiid, he gets paid handsomely and is wildly cheered for whatever he does. There's got to be a common ground between Joel Embiid hate and Joel Embiid hype. Like, we got to find middle ground in debating, who Joel is and what he is and what responsibilities he should take and what blame he should take, etc. It's either Joel Embiid's the greatest and you all suck for hating on him, or Joel Embiid sucks, get him out of town, and that's it. There's no middle ground. There's got to be middle ground there. You wait a year to see if the team building works and let Joel know that they'll trade him to a place he wants to go. I mean, that's got to be at least a consideration conversation that Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey have to have with him. You got to at least think about having this conversation, Brett. You really do. You got to consider it a little bit, guys. You have to. What's up, Robert? How you doing this morning? What kind of fan base are we if we think Joel has done enough? He gave us 4 regular season MVP type seasons, but in the playoffs, a lot of things we complain about is still there. I think that's a fair common ground way of saying it. Agreed, this is Joel's team, but less usage on offense, more emphasis on defensive rebound. That's what I'm trying to say to him. It's not that we're trying to take Joel and run him out of town. We're just saying put less responsibility on him. Maybe it makes what you use him for more effective than it already is, and it preserves him. I don't even remember what the last comment was, and I just remember, like, what? Hold on. Back up. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Likely excuse, Big Al. Likely excuse. Phil, sadly, there's no middle ground when you don't win. I guess. Yeah. There's middle ground in talking about Allen Iverson. He never won us a championship. He got us there, but he didn't win us anything. Bryce Harper hasn't won us anything yet. I mean, Donovan McNabb didn't win us anything, but there's no middle ground in talking about him either. Would love them to try to pry Brogdon away from the Trailblazers. There's 1 year left on the contract and an intangibles guy. Brett, I've gone to the Blazers a few times in my thinking, and I've mentioned it a few times. Brogdon's one. I'm on board with a reunion with Jeremy Grant as well. He's got, I think, 3 years left on his deal. I think his max contract when he signed it was only like 30-some mil a year. So I think he's only got like 30 years, like 90 million left on his contract. He's a wing guy. He's like a better, healthier version of Robert Covington. So I think the Blazers are a great place to look. They're trying to rebuild. We've got some picks to trade. The Blazers are a team I would be discussing potential moves with if I was Daryl Morey. Embiid's trade value will be lower than you think in 3 years. It will be. Joel's trade value every year goes down. And every extension you put onto his contract, it goes down. Joel Embiid's 30 years old. In 3 years, he'll be 33. See, I'm really good at math there. 33-year-old Joel Embiid, he might not, depending on how the next 3 years go, with his knees and his back and everything else that he has, he might have no trade value. He takes one more bad fall, and his career could be in jeopardy. So that's all I'm saying there. I'm not trading Joel. I'm going down with the Joel Embiid ship. I'm not moving on. But you have to at least have the conversation. I know Deebs did it last year. Deebs, I need you to put together a whole bunch of potential Joel Embiid trade scenarios with graphics, and I'm going to have you on the show before you go back to work next week, and we're going to discuss realistic. You were great with them last offseason. I need like 3 or 4 realistic Joel Embiid trade scenarios from you for a show. We'll discuss them just so we can put it out there. We don't want to trade Joel Embiid, but this is what we could theoretically get in return. Just to put it out there to the people. You put out some interesting ones. I remember you put together one last year where it was for the number 1 overall pick for Victor Wembanyama. I was like, oh my God. There was one you did last year that I really did like. I forget which one it was. Maybe I think there was one, maybe it was OKC. I don't remember. Fair. There was middle ground with AI because he was a universally loved in Philly. Joel has been polarizing, and he doesn't do himself any favors when he pouts or talks about. Look, Allen Iverson pouted. Allen Iverson talked trash. Allen Iverson was polarizing. Never working out. Skipping practices. He wasn't. If you really think back to Allen Iverson, really think back in the recesses of your memory, Marshawn. Allen Iverson was polarizing and love. Joel Embiid is polarizing and love. Allen Iverson pouted, but there was no social media back in 2001, 2002. Well, maybe there was, but I don't know if MySpace really counts. An instant messenger, AIM doesn't really count. Allen Iverson was a pouter. Just so you know. Allen Iverson, in an age of social media, would have had maybe been worse than Joel Embiid with the social media stuff. Again, I don't want Joel traded just crossing. That's what I'm trying to do too. That's why this show is about trying to counter some of the narratives and just discuss the possibilities of everything. That's what it is. This season is probably the best time to trade him, but if you keep him, you need to properly set him up. And that's the thing. Either trade him or set him up properly. Don't give him the extension. You got to give him the extension. If he wants it, you have to give it to him. But if you're not trading him, you better damn well be 100% perfect in your decision-making this offseason. Last offseason, we talked about legacies on the line for Morey and Harden, or maybe that was 2 years ago. This year, Daryl Morey's legacy is on the line. If the few people, and there are still a few people that counter me when I say Daryl Morey sucks, that still say BS, Daryl Morey's an elite executive. Those last few people on the Daryl Morey side, this is it. The last few will jump off if he fails this offseason. That's my opinion, at least. Guys, check out our friends over at PhillySportsTrips.com. They're friends of the show, friends of Edge of Philly Sports. They are the premier travel and tailgating company there is if you want to support your teams locally or abroad. They offer self-travel packages, full travel packages, tailgate experiences for the best fans in the world, Philly sports fans. PhillySportsTrips.com. They got a great trip to Brazil to see the Eagles take on the Packers week 1 of the NFL season. Just don't wear your Eagles green. Chicago Cubs, 4th of July week to see them. A great tailgate experience for the Phillies, August 14th for Italian and Heritage celebration. They're already taking deposits for spring training next year, and I'm going to push hard for this for me. Trip out to Pittsburgh later in July. They even got a Philly-Miami trip in September to see our Philadelphia Union. PhillySportsTrips.com. Sign up. Let them know you heard about them on Edge of Philly Sports and Trending in the AM, the #1 Philly sports morning show there is in Philadelphia. Guys, PhillySportsTrips.com. Don't miss out. And I say the best morning show, and I don't just say that. I mean it. I really believe in this show. So, guys, hit that like button, subscribe button, follow button, share button. It means a lot. Guys, 67 people watching right now. It is free. Doesn't cost you a penny to hit that like button, share button, subscribe button. It does not cost a penny. And it's the only YouTube show that doesn't force you to tip me to have your comment and your voice heard. I watch other YouTube shows. I comment on them. Doesn't get put up on the screen. It's just the host talking. And if somebody tips $5, then it gets put up on the screen. That's it. That's not me. That's not what I do here. Your opinions actually matter. Guys, so hit those like buttons. The problem with building around Embiid is you have to surround him with three-point shooters to give him room to operate in the post. Unfortunately, three-point specialist. Problem is he doesn't stay in the post enough. If you don't operate directly through him, maybe he could stay in the post more. We need Deebs on the show for the pre-draft and free agency week. I think Deebs is only off from work through the 20th. So if he's going to come on again, it's got to be next week. I got Stevie from EOP coming on Tuesday next week. If Deebs is coming on, it's going to have to be next week. One thing that guys like Jokic, Giannis, Doncic, SGA don't have to do that Joel has to do is be the best player on both the defense and offensive end. Need guys to carry one or the other. I think that's a fair comment as well. I was heavy on the trade for one train. Yeah. I don't think there was any chance that was ever happening. One or two guys aren't going to win a championship for the Sixers. They need more. One or two superstars will, with 3 or 4 other elite role players. Elite role players over superstars is the way to go. Look at the Celtics. They have 2 superstars, and they got elite role players everywhere. White, Horford, even though it pains me to say it. They got Drew Holiday, who's a star, but he's really a role player he's the elitist of the elite role players. The Mavs have elite role players all over their team. They just have Luka Doncic looking like a crybaby out there. I go back to work next Thursday, 6:20. So that means next Wednesday's your last chance to come on, or Monday. Monday's more of a weekend recap show. So Wednesday. Although we're going to say trade Joel Embiid, maybe overreaction Monday is the day to do it. And I never say anything about winning elsewhere. Okay. He still was a powder, and he was still a crybaby at times. Iverson wasn't universally loved. There was a large contingent that was led by the Howard Eskins of the world. Absolutely. And that's a great segue. Guys, something I'm working on, and I don't know when it'll be complete. We complain about the local and national media all the time, and everyone uses the word clowns. I use the word nitwits and trolls and clickbaiters. I'm coming up with a list of the top 10 media clickbaiters. And I know one name right here, Howard Eskin, is going to make that list. One of the biggest trolls of Philly sports media, the biggest nitwits of Philly sports media. And you got to throw Chris Sims in there, so some national guys can get put on this list as well. So You got to hit me up with those names. Only 9 likes. That is unacceptable, Mitchie Poo. Unacceptable, Mitchie Poo. The next time we get a show with 20 likes, I lift the Mitchie Poo appearing ban. How about that? We got to get to 20 likes at least. Bryce said he would want to be buried in a Phillies jersey. Yeah? What's that got to do? Look, Joel Embiid hasn't said he wants out of here. He hasn't. The discussion the whole time Iverson was here was, is his talent worth all the other? Absolutely agree. That's how I remember it. That is how I remember the Iverson era. Now looking back on it. I might have been blind to some of it during the era, but looking back on it, this is how I remember the Iverson era. He's still one of the 2 or 3 greatest Sixers of all time. I agree with this, Brian, 1,000%. I love talking about people's legacies and whether they're on the line or what they've got to do to solidify their legacy. Joel Embiid's legacy is on the line. He's going to go down as one of the 50, 60, 70 greatest basketball players of all time. But his legacy is on the line. If he's got to win a championship to cement that. Even the great Kobe couldn't win with Smush Parker. Smush Parker. There's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Wow. Morey better be A+++ game this offseason. Nurse will figure it out. I have that much trust. I want to discuss at some point the trust people have in Nick Nurse in more detail. We're already 50 minutes through the show. We got 2 more ad reads. We might not even get to the quarterback list. Maybe we'll save the quarterback list for tomorrow. But I do want to spend a show, a long discussion with you guys on Nick Nurse. What he is. He's obviously a champion coach. Doc Rivers was a championship coach. But we see how that went. Is Nick Nurse a one-hit wonder or not? I don't know. He hasn't been elite since winning a title. And he only won a title because he had 1 year of Kawhi Leonard. Hit that like button. That's right. Ilyasova was so good here. Yeah, he was. Rebounding, three-point shooting, and taking charges. Took a lot of charges. He did. Who's this Steves? Is he a basketball expert? Mr. Crockpot in the comments. He's one of the hosts on Edge of Philly Sports. He hosts multiple shows. He does a lot of great graphic. He's great at basketball and football prospect breakdown videos, prepping people for drafts. Deebs knows a lot about a lot of people. So you got to watch him on Edge of Philly. He's on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, lots of time. And he was on the show last week as well with me here. Turkish Thunder was great. Maury is watching Boston thinking Paul George trumps all of that. If that's what Maury's thinking, get the fook out of here. 1,000%. I honestly can't root for a Josh Harris-owned team. He's not all in like Mark Cuban. You know what, Nooms? And this is one of your best comments today or in general. We put all the blame on Daryl Morey. But Josh Harris don't hold Daryl Morey accountable. Giving Daryl Morey that extension like he did was the first big mistake. If Josh Harris had any balls, he would have fired Daryl Morey and brought in Nick Nurse and a new GM. Last off, he would have fired Daryl Morey right with Doc Rivers. Hired a GM and let the new GM pick his coach. That's what he should have done. Josh Harris only cares about one thing. Moolah, De Niro, money. And that's why he's going to approve Joel Embiid extensions. He's going to approve a Paul George or LeBron James mass contract. Because that puts butts in the seats. Ticket prices for suites go up. Advertising dollars for David Kelleher of Drive David, it's plastered all over the arena, goes up. All that goes up, which means he makes more money. Jersey sales, whatever. Josh Harris don't care about a championship. Jeffrey Lurie, John Middleton, they care about championships. Josh Harris does not. And I think if you want to question Nick Nurse, Daryl Morey, Joel Embiid, you damn well better be questioning Josh Harris's commitment as well to winning and bringing a championship to Philly. Not about building contending teams, playoff contending teams, or building regular season teams. About the fans and getting them a championship, which is what we want. We put up with all the crap so that we can get a championship at some point. Sixers haven't given us a championship since 1983. Y'all crazy. I'm trading Joel now. I mean, I like I said, Brian, I'm not. I'm going down with the sinking ship. But your comment is justifiable now. Your thought process is justifiable now. I'm willing to hear trade proposals from you. You have a trade proposal right now? Send me a trade proposal. What would you want? Where do you think he could go? And what are they going to give us? And I'll be like, all right, I'll listen. That's all I'm doing. I'm at the point now where I'm willing to listen on that conversation. Oh my God, he'll be in my top 3 of biggest Philly sports trolls. Guaranteed. Guaranteed he'll be in the top 3. I do like that Joel takes offseason when former teammates speak ill of the city of the team once they get traded. I do like that Joel takes offense. Yeah, when people talk bad of Philly. I think Joel Embiid truly does love Philadelphia. And I think he truly does love the fan base as a whole in general speaking. I truly think Joel, like Dame Lillard, does want to go down with the sinking ship in Philly as well. And Dame Lillard gave a lot more years than he needed to in Portland. And I think Joel is the same. The problem is Dame Lillard might play till he's 38. Joel Embiid ain't playing till he's 38. So if Joel Embiid wants a championship, we always talk about Joel and he doesn't ever do any recruiting and he's going to play in the Olympics and maybe that recruits a star here. I like to think that Joel playing in the Olympics, a lot of other stars are going to be recruiting Joel to ask out of Philly. Just think of it that way. The complete opposite end of the way of doing things. Bryce is very good at pandering. He is. He's a panderer for sure. Harper knows how to get the fans to just love him. I mean, yeah. I mean, the soccer slide after the home run. Perfect example this past weekend. Embiid said he loves New York and it's his favorite place. Well, New York is not a trade candidate for Joel Embiid because they don't got shit that I want for Joel Embiid. I don't want Julius Randle back. Just so you know. That's exactly how I remember AI in Philly. He's polarizing and said some crap. On the court, elite. Also, often injured. He played through a lot more of the injuries than Joel did. Off the court, a problem. Everybody remembers him and Brett Brown. Where's my when he's getting his trophy? He's like, "Where's my coach?" And crying to Larry Brown. People forget him and Larry Brown butted heads a lot throughout their time here. Harper was hated by everyone in Philly when he was in D.C. In fact, Cole almost threw at him. Yeah, absolutely. But he turned that around real fast, didn't he? Yes, New York City is fun. I hate New York City personally. I don't like big cities. It's too crowded and too big for me. I feel very overwhelmed. My sister-in-law lives in New York. She lives in Brooklyn. And I hate when we only visit like once in a while up there because I hate it. My wife's gone up there once or twice without me to hang out with her because I don't want to walk around. I don't want to get on the subway. I feel so overwhelmed in New York City. I don't like big cities. I don't like big crowds. New York City is not for me at all. Maybe that makes me sound like an old person, an old fart, but it's the truth. Y'all excuse Joel far too much. I've accepted that. Joel's been the constant in all of the failures. Yeah. He's been here for Brett Brown, Daryl Morey, or Brett Brown, Doc Rivers, and Nick Nurse. 3 failures. He's been here for Hinkie, Colangelo. He's been here for Brand and Morey. All failures. He's been here for Butler. He's been here for multiple role players and pieces. Ben Simmons, James Harden. The constant is Joel Embiid, and I think it's a fair comment to make. He really knows how to work. He works us. Bryce Harper works us big time. I wonder if he sits in a room like Mr. Smith. I got them exactly where I want them. Excellent. If Nurse utilized his whole roster, he'd be a lot better. Maybe a little too much. Yeah, maybe. You can tell Jokic been playing basketball since he's been in diapers, and B looks like he's learning the game on the job. I think that was an argument like 3-5 years ago, but I mean, he's been in the league now for close to 10 years. He's, we're not making this excuse for Jordan Mailata. At least Joel Embiid played in high school, late in high school. I think when he went to Kansas, he had 2 years of basketball experience. We don't make the excuse when Jordan Mailata makes a mistake anymore, he's only been playing football for 4 years. Because literally, when we drafted Mailata, he hadn't even ever watched a football game in his life. He'd gone to one camp, and that's it. So if we're not going to make the excuse for Mailata anymore when he commits a an offsides or blows a blocking assignment and gives up a big sack, we can't blame Embiid for that anymore. Top 5 Sixers: Jay, Wilt, Greer, Billy Cunningham, AI, Barkley Cheeks. It's funny, Nooms, that I know the WWWIP is doing their Mount Rushmores of all the teams. And when you think about Mount Rushmores for the Sixers, Joel Embiid's not on it. Not yet. And he might never be. He might be the most talented physical specimen to play in basketball in Philly. But he's not on the Mount Rushmore. AI, Dr. J, Wilt, Moses Malone, Hal Greer, Billy Cunningham, Maurice Cheeks. All our candidates are on the Mount Rushmore, not Joel Embiid. Malman was good while I was there, yeah. Jason Whitlock's personality and body shape are both the epitome of troll. I don't know if I only want to put 2 or 3 national guys on my list. And I'm only putting national guys because I want to be able to put Chris Sims and Skip Payless on there. Maybe I'll throw Stephen A. Smith on there as well. But I'll throw some of the names I'm debating between right now. Obviously, ESP, Giglio, Missinelli, only because Mike Missinelli pissed me off, and he's, I would love to have a conversation with Missinelli at some point, just because he really, really pissed me off a long time ago. Sills, obviously, Hayes, Mr. No Notes. Both Eskin boys, Real Prince Blue. He rubbed me the wrong way years and years ago. Vin Fosh. There's some names I'm debating between right now. I'm not sure. I'm also thinking of not doing the list because it might piss some people off. Yeah. It's a nice against time with Joe's experience years versus health. Yeah. The problem with Iverson, Barkley, and Maxey without Embiid is that you can't win a championship when your go-to guy is that small. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree, relaunch. Joel was trolling the New York fans when he said he loved New York City. He was smiling, answering a question about how, yeah, absolutely. I think that was part of it for sure, Brett. AI was almost traded due to his shenanigans. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm surprised Larry Brown didn't trade him and say it was because of gang ties. ESPN. Oh, man, D-Jax. Excuse me. Olympics, a showcase, he for sale. Yeah, is the Olympics other players trying to recruit him, or is the Olympics him trying to recruit players? Because, you always see stars. LeBron's always doing it. Giannis is always doing it, trying to recruit superstars to come play with him. Joel's never out there recruiting. He's never on the recruiting trail. To Josh Harris' credit, he allowed Brett Brown to get every famous basketball player he could find and not coach them. Yeah. But Josh Harris don't care. He gets all these players, get to the play. All Josh Harris cares about getting to the playoffs and the extra money. That's it. He don't care about the trophy. He wants long-term playoff appearances, and he don't care about a trophy. What's sad is the top 4 Sixers list hasn't changed since 1983. I mean, I put Allen Iverson in the top 4. I do. Embiid should take less money because he's learning. Yeah. We're up to 14 likes. Mitchie Poo needs to get this show to 20 likes. I'm not saying when he'll come on, but to lift his appearance ban on this show. So, guys, hit that like button. Watch out for Missinelli. He might try to sucker punch you. So, side story. So, me and Missinelli, I lost all respect for him many, many years ago, Brett. I've only called into WWWIP or the fanny pack twice in my life. Once I felt it very necessary. We're talking 9 years ago, maybe. When was that? I don't even remember the guy's name. There was an offensive lineman for the Dolphins that was being bullied by the locker room, and he came out talking about it. And I remember the main culprit who got suspended for bullying was Richie Incognito, offensive line. And the Missinelli show, I think it was on the Fanny Pack channel at the time. It was way before Tyrone and those crew were his producers. And they were making fun of this football player for being, unfortunately, sad. Richie Incognito was the one doing the bullying. He wasn't the bullied player. And Missinelli and his crew were making fun of him so much. How can an offensive lineman be bullied? You got to stand up for yourself, blah, blah, blah. Mental health even 8-9 years ago was a lot differently perceived than it is now, and talked about more than it is now. So you know what? As a guy that was bullied massively growing up to the point where it's affected me and my confidence even as a grown man. Okay, Jonathan Martin. We got a lot of people saying it was Jonathan Martin. I thought Martin. I couldn't remember his full name. But anyway, so I called up the Missinelli show to defend Martin in this conversation as a grown man, knowing what it's like. I'm a 6'2", 220-pound. Even in high school, I was a big boy, stronger than most, until my junior year when I realized, oh, shit, I could knock somebody out, and then it stops. But before that, I didn't know that. I called up to defend, and Missinelli laughed at me and hung up on me, and then went on to bash me afterwards on the air, saying that there's no way to defend somebody for being bullied. Instead of talking about no room for bullying somebody, there's no room for somebody that's being bullied on a football team. Just cut the bullied person, because that's not what you want. There was like this macho kind of thing, and I was trying to shut it down. And at that moment, I stopped listening, caring, and being a fan of Missinelli. Not for any of the troll jobs he did, but because of that. So Missinelli, to me, done. Back to the real comments, though. Harris' mistake was allowing the NBA to bully him out of his strategy when OKC is doing the same thing. Well, Eden, I've talked about this thousands of times. The reason why Oklahoma City is allowed to have their own processes because they're not promoting it. They're not monetizing it. Sam Hinkie and the Sixers monetized the process and promoted it and openly talked about it. And that is why the league hated the Sixers for it. Harris only cares about money. Harris said, we're going to do a process. We're going to make money off of the process. OKC just keeps their mouth shut on what they're doing. Richard Incognito, Martin. I'm just trying to fire through these comments that I already saw. Tyrone is no walk in the park himself. No, I don't listen anymore. Haven't in a long time. Mental health for Gen X equals stop being basically. And it's so much more than that. Okay. I don't talk about my issues, but I still struggle from being bullied massively till I was like 16 years old. It's crushed my life self-confidence. I went to public school in North Philly in the 90s. Those kids punched people in the face for no reason and laughed about it. Well, I do remember one time I was being bullied really bad. And I remember the kid's name. I'm not going to say who it was. I was getting really bullied really bad in the hallway one day. I think it was junior year. And I'm like, you know what? This is enough. I just rolled my fist. I've told people to stop enough. I've reported enough. I've asked for help enough. I balled up a fist. I spun around the hallway, clocked him in the face, out. Never got bullied again. It went like that. But it took till I was 16 to realize that. OKC also isn't a major market. That is true as well. I agree. In the celebration of it screwed us. It's all it is. We should sign Caitlin. But I mean, the WNBA. We could get back into WNBA at some point, talking about it. You know, it's turning into a circus now. Why the hell did they bully you? I don't know. They called me names because I've always had bad allergies. I sneezed a lot. They called me Sniffles because I sneezed a lot. I was smart. I was a sports fan, but I was also a book nerd. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, being a book nerd was not good. Like, I played baseball. I also sang in musicals. I played the piano, sung in choir. I did a lot. I played on the chess team and played basketball. Like, I was just now that would be considered cool and unique. Back then, it was considered a loser mentality. My thing in my 8th grade yearbook was, what if Phil didn't know the answer to the question? It is what it is. If you grew up in the 80s, there was no mental health. You couldn't have it. I remember once, and we're getting off topic here with mental health. I remember once in the 6th grade, and Big Al, if you're watching, you remember Sister Moore and her steel finger. And there's this nun that taught at 6th grade at Holy Cross, and she used to be known if instead of she was the old school nun, she grew up and taught in the time when you could hit a student. She had a finger, and she'd hit you with the finger and poke you, and it was like it would knock you back. I remember once I went to her, I'm like, dude, Sister Moore, this is getting too far for me. I can't handle it. And she laughed at me. She laughed at me. I was like, what the hell? A 70-year-old nun laughing at me. in 6th grade because I'm saying I can't take it anymore. You got to help me do something here. She laughed at me. That's the way it was. Whose name? The teacher I gave the name. Anyway, I don't want to talk about me being bullied. I don't. It's not something I'm comfortable talking about. But this is great. Yeah, in this day and age, it was in like 21 Jump Street when they went the movie when they go back in high school and they're making fun of the dorks because what they thought was dorks is not what dorks is anymore. It's celebrated now. Like I don't like talking about it, Barbara. I don't. But getting onto the troll list of Miss Nelly brought up some recessed memories of mine. So we're gonna move off of that. I'm gonna do it. Back then, I wish I had the opportunity to call David Archeri because David Archeri would have gotten me the compensation I needed. You get hurt at work in a motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or affected by criminal law, call David Archeri, the Cherry Law Firm. He's here to fight for you and get you what you deserve. Give him a call, 610-565-0300. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Let him know EOP, trending in the AM, is where you heard about him, and let him fight for your rights. Again, that's David Archeri, the Cherry Law Firm, 610-565-0300, or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Also, check out our friend PJ, owner of Dolan's Bar, 24 East Sellers Avenue in Ridley Park. That's where I grew up. That's where I was bullied, in that region. Dolan's Bar, down in Ridley Park for 65 plus years. Quintessential Irish American dive bar. Great food, great times. DolansBar.com. When you go in there, tell PJ that Phil from Trending the AM and Edge of Philly Sports sent you. I already texted Big Al. We're going to work on trying to find a way to do a live Trending the AM at 8 a.m. from Dolan's Bar. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but at some point over the next couple of months, we're going to do a live broadcast from Dolan's Bar in the morning, guys, just so you know. And now there's a million cherry bomb comments. Sister and the finger poke of doom. Hulk Hogan. This was not a tap and fall over. This was like, it felt like as a 6th grader, it felt like she was hitting you with 50 pounds of force behind her finger. The rumor was that she was sitting in her seat and then the school was built around her. That's how long she was at Holy Cross for. I'm sure she's passed away. I mean, she was in her 70s when I was at school, so at Holy Cross, and that was 30 years ago. So I'm assuming she ain't around anymore. But yeah, the nun must think for, as Jesus said, do not help them. We're getting deep. Like I said, we're getting off of that stuff. I'm just going to hit the like button and not put up every single cherry bomb because there are a lot of cherry bombs. There are a lot of 4-leaf clovers going on here. 21 Jump Street. The movie was so bad. I still watch reruns of the Johnny Depp TV show, 21 Jump Street. I do. It's a really good show. It doesn't translate like in today's day and age. It wouldn't really. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes put out in it, but I still watch it and find it entertaining. Mrs. Reese pulled me by the ear in the 2nd grade for talking. I had 2 teachers make fun of me, So I was bullied by the kids, but it didn't help when your 6th grade teacher laughs at you and when your 5th grade teacher makes fun of you in front of the entire class. I remember my 5th grade teacher one time asked a question. I don't even remember what it was. I raised my hand and I'm like, can somebody other than Phil raise their hand and answer this question? Because we already know he knows the answer because that's all he knows. And she laughed at me and made fun. Everybody made fun of me and laughed in the class, but it doesn't help. Teachers like that wouldn't survive nowadays. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Hell, let me tell you something. That 5th grade teacher, it came out 20 years later, and nobody in the parish knew she was actually a nun in the 70s that got in trouble for giving alcohol to kids. So instead of the Catholic Church firing her and kicking her away or punishing her, they just stripped of her nunnery. I forget what the term is for it. And moved her from the D.C. area to Delaware County and snuck her in as a layperson at our school. And nobody knew. Catholic. Yeah, I'm a Catholic, born and raised, whatever. But it is some shady business, especially in the 80s and 90s. Well, still going on. I go and got some coffee and missed the ad reads. Oh, sorry. Coffee. We need coffee here. We always need more coffee on this show. I think at some point, Duck, I'm just going to put a coffee pot like right here on my thing so I can just drink more coffee. If we ever go to a 2 or 3 hour show, there's going to have to be a coffee pot behind me. And I got all A's. So, yeah, dude, at one point, I was super smart. I mean, I got into Devon Prep on a full scholarship. I was, a super private school back then, because I was a smart kid. Now, at one point, about the time I learned I can knock people out, once I gained a little self-confidence, then I found girls, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that all went out the window. But that's another whole subject for another day. You should have Bobby Boucher. Should have. But that when somebody has no self-confidence in themselves, guys, we got to get off this conversation. Got to get back to talking Sixers or anything, literally anything but this stuff, literally. Because I don't like talking about it. I don't even know why I brought it up. I should never have brought it up. I'll throw another random thing. I got a poll running on my Twitter page right now. Find me on Twitter, @BeardandKnowledge. We talk pizza all the time. We talked a lot of pizza yesterday. So I'm going to try my best to change the subject. I have a thing out there, and it's going on for a couple more days, and we'll react next week to the poll results. Burgers. Do you prefer the cool trending thing in burgers are smash burgers? And I love a Victory and Kennett smash burger, or a big fat half a pound juicy thick burger. What do you prefer? And right now we're about 40 votes in, and it's 50-50 right now. It's crazy. Holly Robinson, she married down when she made Rodney Pete take her last name. Her name's Holly Robinson Pete actually now. Former Eagles legend Rodney MVP is her husband. I was teacher's pet all through high school. Yep, gotcha. Rodney Pete, wife Holly Robinson, yeah, the acting on South Street. Yeah, dude, Rodney MVP, man. We loved him. Going to the chalkboard in the 80s was crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Phil, write a book. Sister Mary Clarence and the Finger Puka Doom. Yeah, I could write a book or do a series of podcasts just on different scenarios in my life and just how much it affected me and has made me who I am. Did Al whisper in your ear to change the subject? No, not at all. 9 years Catholic school. If I had the money, I would go to yeah, dude, I could. I should. I'm getting a Blackstone for my birthday, Father's Day, so I'll go. Dude, smash burgers, man. It's a smash burger world we're living in. That's all I can say. Smash burgers are a new thing. Who would have thought burning a burger and smashing it would turn into the biggest burger craze there is? Everybody's doing smash burgers now. Love a smash burger, but depends, because I love a nice juicy. Yeah, it depends. If I want if I just want a cheeseburger with American cheese, ketchup or mayo or whatever, lettuce, mayo, a basic burger, I'm going to go big size burger, okay? If I want a funky burger with lots of toppings, I'm going to go smash burger. A thick burger stuffed with cheese and sauteed onions. Yeah, I do love a good stuffed burger. But a smash burger with crunchy cheese and is, yeah. Dude, it's crazy. The smash burger thing. And yes, by the way, to Brett's point, we will on Friday, which is tomorrow, right? We will talk Father's Day as well. Happy Father's Day weekend to all the fathers out there. Got to light you up verbally. Yeah, they literally could dress you down. They could literally make you dry shave with a razor if you weren't clean shaven back in the day. It's like, in theory, everything I like about food, a big juicy burger would be my go-to. That's my theory. But in reality, I would order the smash burger off the menu over the juicy burger anytime. You know why? Because the juicy burger also has more room for line cook error. The line cook, you ask for your burger medium, you might get medium well, you might get rare, you might get burnt. You just don't know what you're going to get. Most line cooks suck. A smash burger, you know it's coming out burnt because it's smashed. So you're not going to have your expectations disappointed. Not at all. St. Louis method with onions smashed into it. You got to smash other stuff in it. When you're making your ground beef up mixture for the smash burgers, put stuff in it. Hell, you could probably chop up like cube balls of cheese and put it in there and have the smashed cheese mixed into it. It's great. I didn't know it was a St. Louis method. I just thought it was a method that I've seen done. It's the crispy edges and all the burnt bits taste so good. Absolutely. Victory in Canada. I don't know if all the Victory breweries went there last night for a beer after work. But they do on Thursdays a smash burger of the month for $6. And it's a double smash burger. It's massive. $6 for a double smash burger and a side of fries. Only on Thursday. And they have a different themed burger every month. It's fantastic. And they hope by doing that $6 burger, you spend a lot of money on beer, appetizers, come back another day. I know going there got me back into Victory. I love Patty Melts, the drunk uncle of burgers. But let me tell you something. I have nightmares of Patty Melts from my 18 months working at a Friendly's back in the mid-90s as a line cook, because everything at McFriendly's tasted the same. I would be cooking a patty melt right next to a frozen piece of crappy-ass salmon next to some frozen-ass shitty liver and onions, all on the same flat top, all at the same time. So that's why I have nightmares of patty melts. But a good patty melt, if you keep that bread nice and crispy, it's the drunk uncle, but it's the cool drunk uncle that lets you take a sip out of his beer while he's drunk. Anytime. I'm always open to have a show, even if it's not a morning show. Been trying to get Patty the Gobbler to do a pizza challenge and set up all show equipment. You're in Lancaster. You're only 45 minutes south of the pizza shop, Thieves. Approximately. Bring some equipment. Let's go. Random. Middle of the day show. Anytime. I want to do shows at the pizza shop. They lay a bed of onions, saute them, and smash the burger. Beautiful. I just didn't know it was a St. Louis thing title. The other day I was at Pizza Today Burgers. You guys are trying to get me. Yeah. We love talking food and movies, Barbara, on top of the jet. We've gotten off the Joel Embiid conversation completely. And I've done a good job of distracting from the other conversation by bringing up burgers. Patty melts are so good at 2 a.m. Absolutely. But I'm just telling you, I got nightmares. The Friendly's patty melt, it was rye bread. Why rye bread? I have no idea. It was rye bread, a frozen piece of ground beef, and sauteed onions on the grill, cooked right next to the salmon. And it just smelled. The kitchen at a Friendly smelled so bad. Especially when you would drop that frozen piece of liver on the flat top, and it would just sizzle, and all the wood or moisture would come out of it because it was all wooder. It just smelled so bad. That mean-spirited upbringing is what makes Philly what it is. I guess, Eden. I guess. Back in the 80s, you didn't say what town you grew up in. You said, what parish were you from? You didn't say, I grew up in Springfield. You said, I go to Holy Cross. I got Fatima. Whatever. Our Lady of Fatima, St. Francis of Assisi. That's what you said when you said, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Holy Cross. Oh, okay. That's how it worked back then. Yeah. Dude, I'm starving right now. Starving. Just so you know. The cool drunk uncle that lets you ride quads when you're 10. That's what the patty melt is. That's right. That's the only advantage about already being 10. Yeah, that's me too. Patty melts are gold. Yeah. Let's do one when I'm off work again early August. Set it up. Doing a show at the shop, whatever you want to talk about. We will do a show. Hell, it could be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We can go for hours. Pizza. We can do one, if I could schedule enough stuff, let's do one on a Friday night during the dinner rush. And we have customers coming through. Do it at 2 o'clock. There won't be many customers. How many of you would show up to the pizza shop for the first time to see a show live at the pizza shop? St. Mary Magdalene. Yep. St. Paul's. Yep. Guys, we got 5 minutes left in the show. I didn't cover 90% of what I wanted to talk about because the Joel Embiid conversation is so polarized. So tomorrow, Football Friday, we'll spend Football Friday talking about Philly media trolls, about the quarterback list, just to have fun, because ripping apart Kelly and Vegas's football or quarterback list is just going to be fun. We could talk about, I wanted to talk about this. I'll save that for tomorrow. I'm going to star this. I'm going to put a little arrow here, not to forget about my Indiana Jones conversation I wanted to have. We didn't get to talk about Nathan's hot dogs and Joey Chestnut. We didn't get, I had a pizza shop thing I wanted to bitch about employee-wise. I got a couple things on my agenda here that I didn't get to. And things on yesterday's agenda that I still haven't gotten to. But guys, make sure you hit that like button, that share button, subscribe button, because I have enough content to do 2-3 hours a day. But if you want more of me, you guys got to get the show viewership up. You got to put more people tuning in on a daily basis. You do that by liking, sharing, subscribing, and telling friends and family to join in. That's all that matters. Once I master the Blackstone, come on down for a smash. Yeah, absolutely. I do want a Blackstone. I've wanted a smoker. I've never had a smoker before. I need a new grill. But man, I'm kind of intrigued in getting a Blackstone. My years working on flat tops at Friendlies and pizza shops, man, I could grill up some stuff. I can make a banging cheesesteak. There's secrets to a great cheesesteak on a flat top, man. I love it. Friday, potpourri day for sports. Yeah, it's Football Friday, always a hit. I don't even know how I'm going to title tomorrow's show because I want to talk about the quarterback lists that are out there. But yeah, do you realize Indiana Jones has no influence on that first movie? I'm just going to leave this because we only got 2 minutes left. Hold on one second. Got to get a smoker, man. I know, I do. I want one. And I've been looking at used ones on the marketplace. Get a cheap one to start so I can learn. And then if I'm good at it, then go invest in a really good one. Do you guys know, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I shared out the tweet yesterday. There's this movie site on Twitter, and I always talk about them. They're great. They just tell the stories of the making of a movie. Did you guys know Indiana Jones wasn't Indiana Jones, the producers and writers' first name for the character Indiana Jones? Everyone knows Tom Selleck was the front runner to be on Indiana Jones. But very few people know Indiana Jones wasn't his name when they originally wrote the script. And Indiana Jones, it just rolls off the tongue, right? His original name on the script was Indiana Smith. And my question is, would Indiana Jones would have been as an elite of a franchise movie if his name was Indiana? Indiana, the first one might have been good. Wouldn't have been as an elite if it was Indiana Smith. It just doesn't sound the same. Little something for you guys to think about till tomorrow. And we could bring that up. Remind me tomorrow with your thoughts on that tomorrow. Later in the show. Amy is the smartest character on that show. Guys, with that being said, chose Road to Shanghai instead. Dude, I've seen, you can find it's very easy. There is a video of him doing a scene with Mary, and I forget the actress's name, one of the bar scenes. And there's a whole video, it's like a 2-minute clip of him doing a screen test with her. And it just looks bad. It just doesn't look the same. I don't know. Al Zafiri, yes, you can. What? What are we talking about, Al Zafiri? Ring the bell, whatever. Bubbles Up. It's the name of one of the last songs. The last song Jimmy Buffett released. He gave us his greatest gift. I recommend you listen to the lyrics of Bubbles Up. It means a lot to me. It does. Incoming in Harrison Ford movie wreck. Yeah. And there's a lot of them. Guys, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up for the day. Trend in the AM right here on Edge of Philly Sports. Like, share, subscribe, follow. Get ready for tomorrow's Football Friday, guys. Tell a friend. Shout out. Oh, I forgot to mention real quick before we go. I read our sponsors, but again, Philly Press Box Radio next week celebrating their 500th episode, Sunday, June 23rd at the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA. They're going to have 3 Flyers legends there. Joe Washington, Jim Jackson, Lou Nolan. If you could check them out, shout out to Chet and the crew. The elder statesman of EOP, Philly Press Box Radio, 500 shows. Could you imagine? That's over 10 years of shows, guys. So check them out. Show them some support if you can. But for that, that's it there. Appreciate it, Barb. Appreciate to everybody tuning in, as always. So like we end every show, it's Go Birds. It's Ring the Bell. And even though Duck doesn't know what it means, Bubbles Up.